Anytime we watch a TV show or an online series, we always subconsciously look out for that favorite character. Someone we can relate to or just simply like as a person while we are invested in the main plot of the show, whether it be through their personality, their motivations, or even their backstory. It is very important for a show to have at least one well-developed character, if not more. Avatar: The Last Airbender is a show that has a chock full of such characters, that it's almost impossible to choose a favorite, each one having their own unique design, character, and life goals. Yet they all share some semblance of being relatable. Well, maybe except for Azula, but she's something to be analyzed for another time. For me, however, my favorite character from ATLA is not one that I necessarily can relate to. In fact, we could not be more different. And unless you're blind like her, then you should know by the title that it's Toph Beifong, aka the Blind Bandit, creator of metal bending, and the Runaway. Before we get started, please be sure to put this video on 1.5 times speed or something, bro, because it's fucking long. Alright, anyway. It's important to quickly note that I'm basing this opinion purely off the show. I've never read the comics, nor have I watched Legend of Korra, though from the meme clips I've seen of her,
are you dumb bastards listening to me, you dumb bastards? You dumb bastards! Shove a big old melon in it, I'm talking!
I can only assume that she's awesome in that show as well. But I'm going to be analyzing Toph from the beginning of the show till the end of it. Talk about her character arc, her backstory, and her rude yet lovable personality. The first thing that sets Toph apart from the other characters is her quote-unquote introduction. It can be argued when Toph actually first appeared on the show. Technically, we saw her for the first time when Aang and the gang were tripping out on swamp gas. But at that time, we didn't know who she was, so I'm not counting it as her first appearance, even though that is when we saw her for the first time. Oh, and also, this is a debate for another time, but when people say ATLA is for kids, I just want to show this incredibly sad scene of Katara in the swamp. Point is that Swamp Toph was not the first time we get to experience who Toph is. I'm sorry, but kinda creepy little girl giggling in the swamp is not what I'm going to put as her introduction. This whole scene just reminds me of the traumatizing Skull Kid intro from Majora's Mask. Ugh. Toph's first real appearance actually happens later in Book 2 in the episode The Blind Bandit. Context is important here, so I'll give you a quick summary on what basically happens this episode. Aang is still looking for a nerf-bending teacher. Cool. He enrolls in Master Yu's academy. Not cool. He declines his overpriced Zoom lessons and looks somewhere else. They overhear two young men talking about the next WWE match, Worldwide Earthbending. They ask about it but get rudely dismissed, and Katara straight up woman handles them. They let them know about the Blind Bandit, and there you go. The gang's on their way to see the match. Already this sets the tone of what we expect, because when you hear the title The Blind Bandit for the first time, you're probably not going to take it at face value, right? Maybe you think it just means that this particular fighter steals everyone's money with how good they fight like a blind bandit, but you're not going to literally think they're blind. Cue in one of the best characters, the Boulder, voiced by actual wrestler Mick Foley. Now upon looking at him, one can assume he has a lot of prowess. He's very big and muscular, which makes him intimidating. He always talks in the third person, which might make him seem unintelligent, yet he actually has a decent vocabulary. Point is, this guy is big, and if he's gonna be one of the finalists, then surely this blind bandit person has to be even bigger than him, right?
Now, the moment you've all been waiting for. The Boulder versus your champion, the Blind Bandit!
This, ladies and gentlemen, oh wow, I actually have a female audience. This is what is known as subverting expectations. It is a writing technique that is used a lot in stories, films, books, you name it. If there is a plot, you can subvert expectations. We expected some big hulking person to step out to take on the Boulder. And hell, Toph's original design was actually going to be some burly dude, which even gets parodied later in the show.
I release a sonic wave from my mouth.
Instead, we get pretty much the complete opposite. A small girl who doesn't even look like she can reach the A on the vending machine. And what's up with her eyes? Oh, she's literally blind. So that title wasn't just some clever made up name, she's actually blind. Well, surely she must be cheating or something, right? Like, even the boulder is having doubts. This is all rigged, surely. Cue in seismic sense, an ability that is completely new to the show. Now, when I watched this as a kid, my head immediately thought, oh, she's fucking Daredevil. And I know Daredevil's powers are based off sound, but that was the closest thing I could relate it to at the time. And after she makes the boulder lose his boulders, she just earthbends him away like he wasn't even a player in the game. Introduction. Subverting Expectations. Fuck. After all that, one surely thinks that, what? Who is this girl? How did... I never knew. This is how you introduce a character. They don't need some big imposing introduction or be shown as the clear comic relief to have a good start. Toph's first line is literally, sounds to me like you're scared, Boulder, which shows arrogance and cockiness, yet you can't help but at least be curious to find out more about her. How did she learn this ability? How did she get so good? Who are her parents? Because before all this, everyone didn't really have an introduction like this. Sokka and Katara were introduced as two siblings arguing, as they do, which is a fine introduction for a kid's show, as I'm sure many siblings grew up with it. Aang was found in an ice pinata. Zuko was introduced as some edgy teen hell-bent on finding the Avatar. And Iroh's just perfect. Toph was unique though, shrouded in mystery and having the rep of taking out the guy who took out this King Hippo looking dude. And this guy with a really questionable accent?
Is to rise for Fire Nation National Anthem. Fire Lord, my flame burns for thee.
Is that Russian or French? I don't fucking... The next scene with Toph gives us context of who she is. Turns out, she's not even from some rough lower class neighborhood where she had to fight for her life, in turn making her an excellent fighter. It's quite the opposite. She was born and raised into a wealthy family that also has high status. The Beifong family. Once again, subverting expectations. She might look like a little girl on the outside, but who's to say that she didn't grow up beating dudes way bigger than her? Yet that still doesn't explain how she got this incredible ability that has never been seen before, no pun intended. Fortunately, we get context for that too. Toph was taught by the Big Bad Vegimals, who are apparently master earthbenders, which I always liked how the show made some of the animals in the universe be more than just props in the background. Fire having dragons, air having sky bison, earth having badger moles, and water having a big ball of cheese. So cool, Toph has subverted our expectations. She still seems like kind of a brat though. She didn't even care about the literal world crisis that was going on, and refused to teach the Avatar. Why would anyone want to know more about her just because she has some cool ability? You might ask. Well, we also got to look at how she grew up. Being born blind can have a number of effects on the parents of said blind child. And unfortunately for Toph, she would grow up overprotected, and in a way muted since her voice was never heard by her parents. They forced her to grow up in a prim and proper manner as to be expected in an upper class status. Toph would resent this, however, living a secret life and becoming an earthbending master without her parents' knowledge. Now, I'm not sure how many kids could actually relate to this backstory, but you can't deny that it's interesting. Her blindness unfortunately forced her into a life that she didn't want, even though high status and wealth is ideal for a lot of people. Imagine being born into wealth when you can't even enjoy it the way you want to. Toph has rude attitude and confrontational behavior not because she's a brat, but because she was forced to not be herself. And it was through her own disobedient actions that led her to find a way around her blindness. So of course she's gonna think whatever she thinks is right and deflect any authority or parental behavior. She's smart, independent, and very direct. This is how you make a likable character. You might not agree with her actions, but she's at least understandable. After her parents found out who she really was, Toph saw an opportunity to finally be free of what she's known her whole life, overprotective parents, and so she ran away once again, but this time not going back home. This time she was going to do things her way and teach the Avatar. At this point the audience should be rooting for her. 12 whole years of basically solitude and not having a voice could finally be put behind her, and you can see the happiness on her face by the end of the episode. And now we're getting into the real meat and potatoes on why Toph is my favorite character. Her personality is intoxicating. I don't know why, but a direct, stubborn tomboy being added to the cast seemed to be a perfect addition. This is probably an easy comparison, but Misty is also similar in this regard. Like, who doesn't love a savage? A ton of Toph's most iconic lines are just her having no filter, and I'm here for all of it. Sokka is funny, sure, but you can't rely on just one character to be the comic relief, otherwise they'll just get annoying. Toph balances Sokka out, and in a crazy twist, Sokka actually becomes the straight man to her savagery.
Why are feet coming out of it?
Those are his horns! I haven't seen him in a while, okay?
It looks just like him to me.
Thank you, I worked really... Why do you feel the need to do that? It's so dark down here. I can't see a thing.
Oh no, what a nightmare.
Sorry.
We can take him. 3 on 3.
Actually, Toph, there's 4 of us.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't count you. You know, no bending and all.
I can still fight!
Okay, 3 on 3 plus Sokka.
However, getting along with Sokka's sister was a whole other ordeal. From the start of the show, we've seen Katara being very motherly, screaming at Sokka about dirty laundry, and even sometimes nagging. So immediately one has to consider, okay, how the hell is the rebel tomboy going to get along with the over-motherly hair loopies? Well, they don't.
The stars sure are beautiful tonight. Too bad you can't see them, Toph. Maybe you should take your own advice, Toph.
What's the matter? Can't handle some dirt, Madam Fussy Britches?
Oh, sorry. Did I splash you, mud slug?
But the relationship that Toph has with Katara actually ties in with her character arc perfectly. In the episode The Runaway, their disagreeing and built-up conflicts over the series finally blow up when Katara finds out that Toph has been hustling people for money. And the title given to her cannot be more appropriate, The Runaway, which Toph actually takes pride in since it pretty much summarizes her life perfectly. Later, Sokka has a chat with Toph about Katara, and we come to find out that Toph actually does like her, despite seeming to not be able to stand her. This, my friends, is character development. Something I forgot to mention was the conversation that Toph had with Iroh, which is a great scene in itself, but when Toph goes to leave, she takes into consideration what Iroh told her, that it's not wrong to accept help from others. And here we see that she still remembers them because Toph appreciates Katara's motherly personality, despite it getting on her nerves. She's starting to accept that maybe her parents weren't so bad after all, and just wanted her best interests. The episode actually ends with Katara and Toph having to break out of capture after a trap was set by Sparky Boom Boom Man, wrapping up with Toph accepting that she doesn't hate her parents after all, and with some help from Katara, they write a heartfelt letter to Toph's parents. After that episode, Toph's character isn't really developed since Zuko arrives, and the writers obviously wanted to focus on him joining the gang. Something to note is that she's the only one who seems to be open to the idea of the quote-unquote antagonist to join them. This could be seen as her just having common sense, since Aang needed a firebending teacher, but I think she was still taking Iroh's advice about accepting help from others. Or maybe she just thinks the dude is cute. I mean, what girl didn't at the time? Point is, the trust is there, and it shows that Toph is becoming more accepting, and even goes out to talk to Zuko himself. That is until she gets her feet burned accidentally by him, which is terrifying in itself if you think about it. How are you gonna be made blind when you're already blind? Things end up working out though, and the last real character developing moment we see from Toph is when she talks to Zuko about Iroh, reaffirming the prince that his uncle would be proud and will forgive him, something that is later seen beautifully in the show. And I really wish these two had more screen time together. They have more in common than people realize. Of course there are more Toph moments after the Runaway episode. Such classics as her trying to see if Azula is lying, her being denied a life-changing field trip with Zuko, and even a heartfelt scene where she cries thinking she's gonna die with Sokka. But that scene in particular is a video for another time. Toph was a character who was introduced as something we expected, but was quickly subverted. But once we got to know her, it was hard not to be curious about her backstory and why she was who she was. She was developed beautifully in a believable and well-written arc, while having a badass and likable personality. Like seriously, this girl invented metal bending. The 12-year-old blind girl invented metal bending. Iron Man is shook somewhere right now. Also, what is with all these titles? Man, I gotta watch Korra. Some might call her overrated, but I think all the characters have earned their rightful places in people's hearts. For me though, it's Toph Beifong. Whew, that was a long ass video. Something I wanted to say before I ended though was this picture I saw on her wiki. Like I said, I haven't read the comics, but I really like this picture. It's very Hulk-esque. Anyways, let me know down in the comments who your favorite character is and why. Let me know if you'd like to see more analysis videos like this. And of course, like and subscribe if you want to see more bad content like this where I try to be funny or interesting, because my dream of being a big YouTuber is only possible through you. I love you all, and I'm out this bitch.